Hello, everyone. My name is 12 Gauge, and this is my channel, 12 Gauge Investigative. If you're looking for the podcast to keep your attention, to keep the exciting topics coming, you've come to the right place. Hit the like, share, and subscribe button. Let's dive in. Good evening, everyone. My name is 12 Gauge. Welcome to my channel, 12 Gauge Investigative. Tonight, we're going to take a deep dive into something I've never looked into, but I've heard countless people talk about it. And since I really don't do a lot on this case, I thought I'd take a look and see exactly what people see that maybe could be something of value. Well, let me set this up and then we'll dive in. Because that's what we do, right? We dive in and we investigate the the things that are really the things that are unexplainable. I'm sure this doesn't really hold a lot of water, but it is what it is. I felt like going on live, so somebody sent me this earlier. And I thought, okay, if they sent it, they probably watched it already. So let's check it out. If you're not into this case or you don't know what the case is, this is the Out of Hope or case where convicted killer Brian Koberger pleaded guilty to 4 counts of homicide plus a count of burglary, which he got life sentences for the 4 counts, and he got plus 10 years for the burglary. So, with that being stated, a lot of this stuff was not really applicable whenever 3 years ago and some change, but over time we've been able to get some of this stuff, and let's look at it. That coffee cup looks pretty cool. Here we go.
Corbin, he's been out there for as long as I've been here. Okay.
Okay, the first thing I see him doing is walking into the home, up the stairs, around through the kitchen area. Now he's about to go through the kitchen, I guess. They have it redacted. Let me back it up because I wasn't really paying attention. That's how much I care about this case. But people have asked me to look at this, so I'm going to look at it. So he's walking up the stairs. Many people have speculated that there was a knife at the top of that staircase. Let's look at that again. I don't see a knife. They have speculated, I guess, that this was a knife. I don't know. I've heard that there was a knife at the top of the staircase, and I don't know. Either my eyes are deceiving me or I'm just getting old, but I don't see a knife. But let's go on.
Did you get it working?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna put 1528.
Okay, and obviously, let me go ahead and talk about something before I get everybody, just yelling at me in the comments about this, okay? I'm having to chug this hot coffee because, it's helping with the throat issues. But anyways, everything that I've heard about this case in day one has screamed out contamination, contamination, contamination. Why aren't they wearing gloves? Why aren't they wearing gloves, 12 gauge? Why aren't they wearing gloves? Well, because let me break it down to you right off the bat. When you're entering a home for an unconscious person, first, your first response is to go into the home and make sure that that person is indeed alive, right? You don't know the situation you're walking into. So why weren't they wearing gloves, 12 gauge? Was that not cross-contaminating the scene? They're putting on gloves right there, aren't they? I'm going to keep this on. Like a Michael Jackson thing. But let me remind you, these gentlemen entered this scene believing that there was an unconscious person in the home. They didn't know the homicide until they rounded the corner, went into the room, and said, oh, damn, we got something bigger. So at that point, they were not cross-contaminating the scene. You say that they're cross-contaminating the scene because they're walking around in it. That's not cross-contamination. There's no blood on the floor. And if there is blood that later is found out to have these officers' boot prints in them, they do comparison photos from everybody that goes into the home. So think about that a little bit, because you're going to be screaming that cross-contamination, cross-contamination. No. Cross-contamination would be there's blood right here, and he walks through the blood into the yard, back into here. That would be cross-contamination because he's bringing something into the crime scene to contaminate the blood source so it's unusable. People need to really understand their English a little bit because not everything is contamination. They have every DNA file on each of these officers. They have their fingerprints. They have their boot prints that, if needed, they have the ability to run and cross-reference everybody that's in the home. So to say cross-contamination, at this point, there was none. Just because you walk in without gloves on doesn't mean that you contaminated anything. They didn't touch anything.
Exchange.
And when it comes to investigative reporting, it's about what you can prove, not what you hear, not what you see. It's what you can prove. So all this stuff that's being said, many people are like, they're giggling, they're laughing, they're doing this and that and the other. It's about what you can prove, not what you can see or hear. That's not investigation. Kind of like what we're doing right now. I can see it, I can hear it, but is that really an investigative way to look at things? No, it's not. That's why I said it's an investigative discussion.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
See, because at this point, you can see all the stuff on the counter, right? They've yet to touch any of it. So how's that contaminated? They haven't touched any of it with their bare hands. They haven't rubbed up against it. They haven't brought in any kind of DNA introduced to any of the evidence. He's way over here. So how's his DNA going to float over here and get on this? And if it happened to, like I just said, they have their DNA profiles to go against to see, okay, well, this is Officer so and so DNA. So therefore, the rest of them that's on here, we're going to check and see, is it Xana's? Is it, the DoorDash drivers, if they got her DNA, on the bag? It's easy to explain these things whenever you are looking to say, it's what I can prove, not what I see, not what I hear. What can you prove in court?
Hey, Corbin. Corbin.
And that's something that's always troubled me because the multitude of videos, still shots, whatever, I always knew that these lights were on. So therefore, it always intrigued me to think, okay, if these lights are shining in on a dark room, once the individual walked through the sliding glass door, you're not going to see their face, especially if the light is shining in bright enough through that door. Are you going to see the silhouette of a man, a woman, a dog, whatever the hell it is that you want it to be? That's what you're going to see. So I always thought, these lights are on, so therefore the person walking through this door, you're not going to see their face. And as they're walking away from you, people are saying, a long time ago, they were saying, well, they should have been able to identify from the person walking back through that door. Well, how could you identify when these lights were on? All you can see is the silhouette. And y'all know this. Y'all know this. I don't know why y'all want to discuss like it's something that is not feasible. You know what I mean? I'm glad I waited a long time to go over this because it gives me a different perspective because I'm watching it for the first time. I've seen it on other people's channels, but I haven't really watched their channel. And right now he has some gloves on. He has some gloves on. But does he have a mask over his nose? Does he have a mask over his mouth? No. So therefore he can transfer spit, saliva. If he talks and spits, you know what? Some of his saliva is going to be on the floor. Some of his saliva might get on the counter. Does that mean that he's contaminated the whole crime scene? No, that's not what that means. So him walking through this home does not necessarily mean that he contaminated the crime scene. He did not mix his bodily fluids with any of the blood. He did not mix any of his breath or his thumbnail into any of the blood that I know of. You know what I mean? So let's continue on. See, there's a lot of people that have said you can see blood spots as you're leaving the door. Or how come there's not any blood spot? Well, let's think about this logically, okay? You with me here? Let's think about this logically. If he made, since he's the one that admitted to it, since Mr. Koberger was able to walk through that home without making any kind of shoe print other than the latent shoe print that they found, and they've never said that shoe print was associated with Brian either. So All we know is that it's just a latent shoe print of something else, somebody else, some other shoe size. We never heard whether it was his or not. So if he was able to not walk through any blood, or maybe he had some booties on or whatever, or maybe he was just careful. Maybe he did have blood spots on his shoes or his boots or whatever the heck he wore. He just didn't have them where he was stepping on them. So therefore, he was not bringing blood spatter through the doorway. So I'm glad you're here, Roxy. Foxy. Looks like there were some other people with you. I guess I lost the world because I don't agree with what everybody has said. And I'll never agree because you know what? It's logical. I can see with my own eyes. I don't believe that the handprint that they saw or they found on the window was Brian's. I don't believe that that was Brian's handprint. That would have meant that Brian would have had to taken his gloves off or whatever it was that he was supposedly wearing, touch the window. Now, why would Brian have touched the windowsill like that? The window pane, I'm sorry. Not the windowsill, but the window pane. I just I don't see that being his. The fact that they did dust it, I can understand I can understand why people would think that that would possibly be the perpetrator's handprint. But you tell me, if you're trying to commit a murder and you take your gloves off enough to touch a window pane and you're not wanting to get caught, is that not the easiest way to get caught? Is that not the easiest way to get caught? I'm not the smartest man on the planet, but I can tell you that is an easy way to get caught. And people were saying, is that a firecracker? No, that is a speaker. Would that have caught anything? No, it wouldn't have. All this stuff on the table, if it was there while the perpetrator was leaving, if that evidence could talk, we'd know the truth. If that box of macaroni could say, yes, indeed, it was a man with bushy eyebrows, and if this pot holder or pot cover could say, yes, he was 6 foot tall, 185 pounds, and these cups could say, yes, indeed, he was carrying whatever it was he was carrying, and these boxes could take a photo, we wouldn't even be having this discussion. I don't see any blood. I mean, it's a shaky camera right there, but I don't see any blood at this point. Don't see any blood. I mean, I'm sure he's not looking for blood. You know why he's not looking for blood? You know why these 2 individuals or 3 individuals or even 4 individuals, including Payne, you know why they were not looking for the initial stuff? I'm going to break it down for you because they were not the investigators. They were not the forensic teams. They were not the fingerprint team. They were not the people with the cameras. They were not people with the measurement. They were not people with the swabs. That, my dear friends, is investigators. Those are the investigators, and that is the investigative process. These people could not be the investigators. That's why it's easy to pick on them. That's why it's easy to say, you know what, they didn't do this, they didn't do that, they didn't glove up, they didn't do any of that. Well, you know why? Because they went into that home for an unconscious person. Found out that, hey, the person is indeed deceased. Okay, now we need to make sure we wait for the cavalry because guess what? we got to make sure that this crime scene, other people don't come in and out. And people say, did Hunter contaminate it? Well, let me point out the obvious here. You don't think Hunter got DNA swabbed? You don't think he got fingerprinted to only match up against any of his potential DNA or fingerprints into place? And seeing that Hunter was a frequent resident visitor of the place, guess what? His stuff would have been in there. So it wouldn't have mattered one way or the other. Once again, it's not what you see, not what you hear, it's what you can prove. And proving goes a lot deeper than just asking questions. You have to come up to a viable solution. That is proof. Right now, I'm not proving nothing. I'm merely just talking. I'm enjoying this. I mean, that's a small space. If he only left it open that wide, that goes to show you, if you're looking at this through an investigative lens, as a police officer, you're thinking, okay, chances are this person was only wide enough to get through this doorway. If he was indeed wider than this, don't you think the door would have been open wider? Maybe all the way open. But no, since the door was only open enough for the individual to go through there sideways, or indeed sideways and then frontways. I mean, most people, when they walk through a slider, they walk through like this. They don't go sideways unless they're bigger. I mean, I'm just stating the obvious here. I mean, he sees the footprints. We see the footprints in the snow. This is before he or anybody else has even walked out there into that snow. So the fact that people are saying, well, he messed up the footprint, he stepped in the footprint. No, he did not. He's sitting there standing in the kitchen in one place. You know what he's doing? He's securing a location. He's waiting for his superiors to get there to tell him what he needs to do. That's what he's doing. With the video, with the body cam on. He's not out there playing in the snow, rolling through it, talking about his good buddy Hunter and all this. He's not doing any of that. Once again, if you get anything from this, it's not what you see, it's not what you hear, it's what you can prove in court. And if you can't prove it in court, guess what? The person walks. If it's provable enough and the person believes that they're not going to be able to beat it, a lot of times they offer them a plea deal and they take it because it's better than facing a huge chance of whatever it is that they're looking at. Life in prison, the death penalty, whatever. Once again, he has not touched anything. He is putting his gloves back on. He has not touched a single thing. So those people that scream from the rooftop, those cops contaminated everything. They planted the sheath. They did all this and that. Okay, what? The body cam's on. But 12 gauge, you can manipulate a body cam. Okay, maybe in your world. But in my world, I just bought a body cam today. It's kind of hard to manipulate it. Even when you download the images, it's hard to go back and, create things that you want to see. Not like Photoshop, not like Photo Bucket. So the man is gloving up, standing still. standing still. I don't know how people had a field day with this. I really don't. Unless they were looking at all the food particles in the kitchen, like, oh, how nasty or whatever. I mean, look at the floor. You don't, if there was blood smear, I'm sure he'd be focusing on it because he's looking for it right now, obviously. He's probably looking for anything that he can see with the naked eye. And he has his gloves on, so he's not contaminating anything. Because you know why he can't do anything right now? Let me break this down for you. If you can't see it in the common area with your eyes, it is against the law to touch anything without a search warrant. But many people don't know that. They think that they're merely sitting there contaminating on purpose. You know why he's not touching anything? Because he understands that. If he sees weed, drugs, whatever, he can't pick it up and put it in a bag. He can't tag and bag it. That's not his job at that point. There is no search warrant for this resident because they went in for an unconscious person. It was in, it turned into a homicide. At that point, they have to wait for search warrant on what they're looking for. That's why it took so long. That's why it took so long. You know? Because he's waiting. You know, he's giving you a perfect shot to the backyard. You see the footprints going out and coming back. So I've never said this before, but think about this. If there's two sets of footprints, one going out and one coming back, if the individual was so obsessive compulsive, this explains a lot. Because for an individual not to mentally be thinking about something enough to be thinking about the route that they're taking, this person could have had the footprints coming in this way and then the footprints going out that way. Then you wouldn't have known that it was the same person. But no, this person was fixated so much on what they were doing because that's what they do. That's how their mind works. And since it was Brian depleted, I'm going to say Brian did this. So what do we know about Brian? He's very meticulous and he's very detail orientated. So going in one way would necessarily mean the same way that he went out. Now, if Brian would have wanted to, mess with people, he could have went this way behind the couch, where later on we saw evidence marker number 3 from the forensic team that were looking at it and measuring it. But no, he went out the same way he came in. Why didn't he go out this way? We'll never know. But think about that a little bit. If you're that fixated on the obsessive compulsive disorder, which he claims he has, then that makes sense. You're going to be that meticulous to go out and come back in the same way. Logical. And see, why didn't he go out this way and then walk down the road back to his vehicle? I mean, he had all the time in the world. This is where they found evidence marker number 3. But you get what I'm saying? I hope y'all do, because I'm not trying to prove or convict or any of that right now. I'm just merely just investigatively breaking this down for you, perceptionally. So think about this. If Brian would have went out this way and then up the road and then around, got into Elantra and then hauled ass, then that would have confused the hell out of the investigators because there's one set of shoe prints in and then there's not any going back because this has no snow in it. And they only found that one boot print right there, which necessarily they didn't tell us that was Brian's or not. You know what I mean? So I saw that the other day, and I was thinking to myself, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. See, still this man has not touched a thing. He merely went out back during the scene. That's what he's doing. During this thing. Why he's back in? Did he contaminate the doorway walking back through it? I think he was smart enough to go over enough that if they found his latent boot print, they would know it was his compared to the other latent stuff that they found in the doorway. Let me ask you a question. Do you think that Brian, you saw how he walks, you see how he walks? He walks side to side, almost waddles. Do you think he went straight through there, or do you think he went through there sideways? Just a question. I don't know why people were having a heyday with this. The dude hadn't said nothing since he put those gloves on. But people have ran with this. I have seen this video. People have mocked this video. They've talked about the contamination. They've talked about, he was in on it. This was a setup. This is how they were storing this sheet upstairs right now. This is how they're framing Brian. Doesn't it make sense that if you walk back in and you stand in the same area that you were standing before you walked out, chances are they're going to be able to say, well, this is Officer so-and-so's boots. Let me see what Foxy had to say. 12 gauge, I got duped by AI today, I think. But out of 4, got me good. It was funny, but wow, what a really shake up. Yeah, AI is getting a little real. Right here. I wish I could zoom in, but there's the French fries. There's the bag. Over here, we've seen, multitudes of things, but he had not touched any of this. So the fact that his DNA or anything would be on any of this stuff, this is still evidence. If he touches any of this before there is a search warrant, it's inadmissible. And you think that, all the evidence that supposedly they had in the home, if they would have contaminated any of it, don't you think the defense would have been rising up to inadmiss all the stuff that people are supposedly talking about that is contaminated? This could be my college house. Love a little cleaner, but there's a lot of people going in and out. And look, the fact that this cabinet was open like this, let me break this down for you. Because this is the kind of person that I am, the kind of thinker that I am. You don't have to agree with me, but the fact that this cabinet was open, he didn't open it, we would have seen that. The other officer didn't open it. So this would have been the last thing that Xana probably did, was open this cabinet. Whether she got this cup, this bowl, or any of these out of here. This would have, or she was just looking for some spices, whatever it was. This was the last thing that she did because this was the only thing that is open. I don't believe that Brian opened it. You know what I mean? I don't believe that he would have opened it. I don't think he was looking for some paprika, you know? So that is sad to think that that probably the last evidence of her existence is opening this cabinet, and that could have been when she heard the commotion upstairs and decided to go upstairs. Because I mean, that's just brainstorming, right? Because think about what we've heard of some of these people that lived in his home. Surely, if she was the one that walked in here and saw this open, surely she would have shut it because everything else is shut. Why would this still be open? Right? Even if your roommate was supposedly making popcorn, like people say, because there's butter and she was making popcorn, you walk in, you see this open, you're gonna be like, damn, freaking people can't even close the doors. I know that's how I think. But the fact that it's not shut tells me that either she was opening it for something and got distracted, and that was the last thing that was left open. Let me know in the chat if you're still here. Let me know if you're enjoying what I'm doing. Like I said, I know the video has not a lot of vocal stuff, but I'm merely just showing you exactly what the video shows. Just a lot of nothing. And this chair right here has always intrigued me. Seeing that he didn't lift it and put it there. The other officer didn't lift it and put it there. If you're walking through this area right here, because you're walking on the way out in a brisk walk, how did he not hit the chair on the way in or on the way out? I know you can see it, but how did he not like instinctively say, well, I'm going to move this chair? Because just seeing this chair like this, I'm going to be like, I'm going to scoot this chair out of the way because if I got to come back through here, I know I'm clumsy enough. I'm gonna take this chair out, especially if I'm not thinking about what I'm doing. Because if you're going in to murder somebody, aren't you going to do that? I don't know. Just talking. Nothing to see. Nothing to see. Okay, now he's looking. Now he's looking. Like I told you earlier, if you're able to see something in the common area, you can take a photo of it if you think that it's going to disintegrate. So, what's he looking for? Doesn't that irritate you when you drop shit? It always like seems to coagulate under the little crevice like here. It looked like she dropped some food or people have been dropping food and they didn't sweep it up. I think he's looking for blood. But he pointed at something right there. He still didn't touch it. He hasn't touched anything. Okay, he's going back to his original spot. Because they probably told him, guard the back door. Guard the back door. And sometimes that is all your job is guarding the back door. Making sure nobody comes in, nobody goes out. I've never been a cop, but you know what? All this stuff that I learned this last year, it's the same type of stuff policemen learned. And I did learn the forensic investigative process. You know, that's why I talk about it so much because people sometimes amaze me that they don't have a clue what it is that they're talking about. It sounds great for ratings. I mean, it sounds great for, people to come in and check you out. I could see it's a lot more exciting to sit here and say, oh my God, he's just walking all through that house. He's contaminating the shit out of that crime scene. How are they ever going to find anybody else's stuff if he's walking all through there? He's walked through the slider. He's walked over there by the microwave. He's contaminated everything. He didn't have his gloves on. Oh my God, he just put his gloves on. All right. Thanks for coming in. Hope to see you again sometime. I could say that. I could sit here and say that. He keeps messing with his gloves. Why is he messing with his gloves? Is he contaminating something? Why does he keep taking them off, putting them on? The fact that he took it off just dusted his DNA everywhere. That's not how it works. It is in fairy tale entertainment land, in YouTube land, that's how it works. But in fairy tale land, it's not reality. I really wished it would have been a trial because we would have actually been able to see, how much of this stuff that we watch would have made it to trial as anything, and how much of it is, as people saying, nothing burger. Am I gonna watch an hour worth of him standing here? Because that's what it looks like. An hour of him standing here and then somebody walks in. Wow. I can tell you, maybe this dude's OCD. Because he keeps taking his gloves off, keeps putting them on, keeps taking them off, keeps putting them on. Is he taking them off because he's writing something? Is he texting? I mean, what's he doing? Because you'd think that the gloves would be good enough to be able to swipe, Maybe he's texting. Those look like leather gloves, and they're hard to tell to text with those damn gloves, I can tell you that. I was hoping to have somebody come up with me and discuss this, but obviously people have seen this already a million times, and they don't want to sit and watch it again. One thing I know about StreamYard, and the fact that I'm not monetized, I don't think my videos get instantly put out there like they used to, which is cool. I mean, whatever. I don't know if I can see and watch. I'm not going to ruin y'all's time for an hour. Let's see what he's doing whenever. Okay. Finally, he's talking. Walking around again, doing the same walking. He's pacing a hole in that floor, for sure. And he goes back there, stands there. Let's speed it up. Okay, now he's back to the slider. Going back in the house. Standing there. Looking around. And the clock says 15:54, so this would be like almost 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I believe. No, 4 o'clock would be 20. So 15 would be 12, 13, 14, 15, about almost 3 o'clock. Yeah. Old boy's not doing anything. In patrol, that's what he's doing. What do you see? What do you see? What do you see? You see anything? What do you see? What do you see? Get him. Get him, boy. What do you see? You see anything? Nothing at all. I don't know. There's no way Brian could have did this alone. No way in hell Brian could have did this alone. No way in hell. Not even a slight chance he could have did this alone. A slight chance. Because if there's a set of footprints going that way and a set coming this way, where's the other set? Where's the other footprint? We haven't heard anything about them going out the front. No footprints found in the front. No unidentified footprints. None of that. Come on, mac and cheese. I wish you could talk. You could tell us the truth of this story. Inquiring minds want to know. Inquiring minds want to know. Was it indeed the Brian Koberger? Because I know a lot of people that plead guilty for shit they don't do, right? Especially the 4 quadruple homicide. Damn. I can't even get somebody to be honest about whether they snuck out at night. They're not going to own that, even if they do. So why would somebody say, I did it 4 times, when I have people on monitors, I can't get them to admit to anything? You understand what I'm saying? You get what I'm saying? Speed this up a little more. This is kind of funny, actually, watching this in fast pace. Oh, I'm looking at my shoes. Okay. He has the lace-up boots, so they'll be able to tell. All of Moscow Police Department wear these type of boots. What type of boots did you have that day? Okay, these were the types. Let's run the print. All the prints we found were in this one specific area. These prints, these boot prints, were indeed yours, Mr. Warner. Yes. Yes, Your Honor, they were. Never got to that point, though. Never got to that point. That napkin on that floor is bugging the hell out of me, but I know that he can't pick it up. He can't even pick up the excess curly fries or shrimp that's under that counter. It's driving the hell out of me. It's driving the heck. I can't even think about it without going, bro. While y'all watching this, I'm gonna see who else is on. I get a lot of replay crew, you know what I mean? Which I'm cool with that. At least somebody's watching it, right? Because we ain't seeing nothing, bro. I don't know how people actually had conversations for hours about this video. Because the man literally is just standing there, shaking his head. Like, damn, I wish somebody would hurry up and come and relieve me. What's really going on? Where's everybody at? Like we heard Mabbott say, she didn't arrive till 4 o'clock because the police were going through the house waiting to give the crime scene over so that she could pronounce him dead. I need to turn it down a little bit because maybe he's about to say something. Oh, he's staring at his shoes. That's probably what I'd be doing too. I'd be like, I'm going to stare at my shoes. Fuck it. You got me standing here for an hour almost, and I ain't seeing nothing. You don't see no ghosts. You don't see no shadows. Right there, you can't see the handprint. Because it has, guess what? It hasn't been dusted for yet. Uh-huh. I don't know if it even shows on live. I tell you, YouTube punishes you whenever you don't play nice. They punish you. And I'm like, okay. I got you. Yeah, it does show that I'm live. I'm live watching this camera. Right here, folks, we got the crotch cam. I don't see what people actually saw that was questionable. You got to question everything. Okay, what are we questioning? The fact whether he stood in one place or not? Because he sure as hell didn't contaminate shit while he was standing there. He didn't touch anything. He's just standing there, looking around. How is that contaminating the crime scene? How are the other officers coming in there contaminating the crime scene? We have not seen in any of the body cam footage that they contaminated the crime scene. That's why he's blurring out that. It's probably at that point, there was a lot of evidence that hadn't been gone through yet. But he's kind of looking around, see if there's something that he can capture on his body cam that is worthy of evidentiary value. And the fact that there isn't anything that he specifically goes into, this is boring. I am so sorry that I put y'all through this. I really was expecting something more, especially the way that people have been going about this video and some of the other videos, you know. I was expecting a lot more controversy. Not a damn thing. Nothing at all. Okay, what's he say here? Maybe this is where.
It's add the snow, but go on here.
Oh, yeah, because it was just the route that we've already taken. So
I'll leave it up to you.
He just got relieved by the other officer. He even brought him a coffee. See, there's the blood going down the wall.
Corbin and I have just been standing here by the corner of the table. That's it.
Just
Here.
They contaminated the crime scene, 12 gauge.
This was Corbin's.
Their existence,
Mark the time that we switched out.
their
And
existence,
then I'll
that's
start.
not how you investigate a crime scene.
The actual list is back there. $15.28.
1628.
17, 28.
15.28, 16.
That's 170.
See, he's signing out. He is officially
Is that yours?
giving it over to his partner.
We can use that then.
If he's still here.
Yeah.
I came in, I'm leaving, now I'm signing it.
I ended up losing my pen somewhere. I think I might have lost it out front because I was fiddle farting it. Handed it to
Get it to blood.
67. All right.
Yeah, they just want you to start typing your camera.
Okay.
I don't know how people expect people to investigate crimes. Do they want them to hover above the crime scene in a little hovercraft? And see, he didn't even walk back the way his footprint did. He's walking down the rock. Still has his body cam on.
I'll drop my
He's
pen out
an
here.
officer in the front.
What?
My pen.
Is it this pen?
Yeah.
Officer in the
You
back.
gave it to me?
Oh, okay. I was like, shoot, I lost it. I'm heading back to start typing.
I'm gonna see if someone there. If they're
Yeah.
not busy, maybe like Stir someone.
70. I'll have somebody come up.
Is he?
Gotcha.
Well, they're probably busy. Maybe one of the guys that.
What is that? Is that evidence right there that they overlooked? Is that what they used to just throw away their evidence? We're going to pick it up and leave with it?
And then that's not interviewing.
So there's actually just another open door up there. That's why we're hanging out up there.
No one's got. Is it?
It's just a post. It's just a post, but it's that. Yeah. So he's still up there. No, we are tracking it though.
Okay. So they're just going around then when they. Rotate.
Yeah, when they go around, but I guess I'm out now. So
Yeah, I just marked you out. So.
thanks, man.
Yeah,
Because that's what they do. They log in and they log out. I'm gone.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. We're out of here. That was some boring shit. I can't believe that I fell for that. I don't know why people are so fascinated with that case still, because what did that explain, honestly? What did that explain to you? Sitting here talking about it, what did it explain? Nothing. The fact that that man was just standing there looking around. Well, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to talk about some things and continue the podcast because that was boring. That was pretty damn boring, if you ask me. I got the concert shirts out. You know, been wearing them, obviously. I got tons of them. I just haven't worn them. Hopefully, if ever I should pass, my nephews or whoever can have some kind of wear from them or just, do whatever. Because I did spend some good money on them. Anyway, we just sat there and we watched that Idaho stuff. Like I've always, hung on to my original theories. The police did not contaminate the scene. We've watched plenty of video. And then, when the forensic team, they walk in, there's two ladies out by the van. One dropped the glove, puts it back into the sack. That's a big deal for people. That was something that was a big deal for people for a long time. I thought to myself, why is that a big deal? They haven't been in the house with that glove. Now, had she taken that glove into the house and put it on and then, wore it throughout that? then yes, my friend, that would have been contamination. The fact that they put the booties on off the ground and went into the residence, with the first step being in the air into the residence, that was not contamination. The fact they weren't all white, all that was not contamination. Everything was on body cam. What else do we want to see? Not a lot there. Of all the body cam, there's been a lot redacted. There's been a lot of stuff that, you know, that we have seen. Staring at furniture, staring at boxes of beer and Trulies and opening refrigerator doors and all this. What can you prove from that? You can prove the blood. Who DNA was in that blood. You can prove who the victims were. You can prove it was indeed a vehicle circling around the house, leaving at a high rate of speed. You can prove that there was audio of 417 on a whimpering thud. And then not long after that, a car was seen leaving the area at a high rate of speed. You can prove that. You can prove the fact that Mr. Kober didn't have an alibi. His alibi was never questioned, and the motions, he changed it more than once, but it was never something that the state was like, well, we're going to push on this. None of that. So, what did you really have? The fact that you can be let free with reasonable doubt. Here's another thing that I want y'all to think about. When it comes to conviction, if you can be let free with just evidence that shows there's reasonable doubt to show that you weren't potentially guilty of this crime, the same holds true towards conviction. If I can prove to 12 jurors with evidence that the point that more often than not you are the perpetrator, that's all it takes. It's not you need mounds and mounds and mounds of evidence to get a conviction. No, that's not how it works. All you need is enough evidence for 12 people, 12 jurors, to say, you know what, this evidence adds up to potentially being more in the favor that this individual did it than causing reasonable doubt. The fact that in this case, multitudes of individuals have spent a lot of time questioning the motives of the police, questioning the motives of the prosecutor, questioning the motives of the defense attorney, how even questioning the motives of Brian, questioning the motives of the surviving roommates. Everybody's motive has been questioned, but there's, the same people asking those questions have never really reached a conclusive outcome or solution. Because that's what really investigative work is. You investigate and investigate till you get a solution that you can live with, or a solution that points guilt or innocence. And in this case, as we all know, he pleaded guilty. So that was the solution that the prosecution was willing to live with, and the defense did not challenge that whatsoever. They were willing to live with it as well. So the fact that they're willing to live with that conclusion and the rest of the world in the true crime community is not, what does that tell you about reality versus fiction? You know what I mean? Like in fiction, you can continue to read a book looking for the clues of something you may have missed. But by the time you get to the end, if the killer is still out there, unsolved case like Brianna, the Brianna, God, I can't think of her last name. The Brianna 19-year-old case from Oklahoma City. I can't think of her last name. Anyways, there's never been a killer convicted or even let free. There's been countless people, countless suspects. It's not what you think you know. It's not what you think you can say. What you can prove in a court of law. And if you can't prove it to get guilt or to get enough reasonable doubt to set the person free, and the suspect is scared that they're going to be convicted, most often than not, they plea. And in this case, that's what happened. He pled. So I want you to think about that a little bit because that's not spoken on a lot. If you can have one person have reasonable doubt and convince the 11 other people that there's no way that this person could have done this, and they all vote unanimously based on the evidence, no matter how flimsy, no matter how circumstantial, no matter what kind of evidence is presented, if you can present reasonable doubt so easily to get somebody off, the same applies to convictions. It's not like you need a mountain of evidence to prove that this person did it. And that's what I want you to think about whenever you're watching other cases is there enough to convict? Because us looking at this in hindsight, all the evidence or all the investigative work, should I say, because a lot of this is not evidence. A lot of this is nothing more than investigative process, and we got to see the autopsy, fingerprints, and all that stuff. We got to see the lab results. We got to see all that stuff. But to a lot of people, that's not good enough. That wasn't good enough for them to see how they were piecing this crime together. Because chances are the experts would have came in, they would have argued the fact whether the prosecution had a better understanding of the evidence or whether the defense did. And the jury would have been able to deliberate that and come to a guilty or not guilty verdict. But Brian took that out of everybody's hands when he decided to plea. Whether you're happy with that outcome or whether you're not, that ultimately was the outcome. I wanted a trial. Because I wanted this to be one way or the other. Either the jury was going to speak in an acquittal or no reasonable doubt, or they were going to convict. Now, if they were going to convict, then they were going to give you the reasons why. The fact is that we don't believe that this person did this, or there could have been more than one person, especially when in the investigative process, the investigative paperwork, they showed you the 4 alternative suspects that they thought it was, and none of those had enough backing to be able to substantiate that could have probably been an alternative suspect. Therefore, it was thrown out of the motion. Now, if the court's willing to do that and accept that, then how come we can't? How come as a society we can't accept things for what they are rather than what we want them to be? We live in a world today where we live on illusion and delusion. The illusion is the more grandeur the story is, the more juicy it is, the more mysterious it is, the more viable outcomes there could be to this crime. When was the last time you ever read a crime novel when the person that was writing the crime novel took you on alternative areas? I know that they talk about different suspects in a lot of them, but once they start going towards one direction, they don't they don't change their mind a lot of times. They leave it up to the courts. So once again, either you're uninformed, you have a biased mindset, or you just don't really want justice or truth. You just want juicy entertainment. For whatever it is, that's on you. And that's the luxury of being a human being, is you have your own perspective on what it is and why you do what you do. I'm not here to try to change that. Because honestly, I could care less what you think or how you think. Because, you know, in reality, there's one person watching. I've already alienated everyone that used to come to this channel. The guilters and the pro burgers. So that should tell you a lot about my channel. It's one perspective: honesty, integrity, and the investigative process. That's not entertainment for people. They want fighting. They want contempt. They want angst. They want the ability to know that they're the smartest person in the room. Like I always said, if there's one person watching and that person is me, I'm happy about that. Because, I'll keep rolling regardless. I'll keep rolling. I don't do this for no other reason than just to be able to have a nightly conversation with anyone that'll listen. And my honesty tells me that, you know what? I didn't sell out. And I'm thankful that I didn't. Those people that don't like me in the true crime community, I'm sorry that you don't. I'm sorry that you couldn't change me. Sorry, not sorry. But I'll always be who I am. And I started that way and I'll end that way to the last breath that I have. I will never sell out just for the sake of. YouTube doesn't pay me anything now. So it's, if you think I'm doing this for clicks, if you think I'm doing this for views, you're mistaken. Because I don't make a dime off YouTube. I make all my money out here in the real world. Where I don't get banned for saying rape, murder, blood, stabbing, shooting, all those words that people can't fathom to hear. But yet, whenever they release crime scene photos and you see all the blood and you see the gore and you see all this stuff, you still question it. You still say, that's not enough. We need more. We want to humiliate the victims of this heinous crime. We want to see them mutilated. We want to see their bodies mutilated. We want to see all this stuff because I'm still not convinced. You keep moving the goalpost. YouTube won't let you show all that. I'm shocked that it let you show as much of the crime scene photos that we got to show. Honestly, I'm glad this case is over and I don't have to spend a nightly part of my life defending it or going against it, being called names, being set apart. You know, what's wrong with people liking me for just being me rather than where I stand? That should tell you a lot in itself. And that's the same with the people that I've had on my panel. I've had people on my panel at their earliest stages of their channels, and now they don't even stop in because they believe that they made it in the YouTube world. They're bigger than us little channels down here. You know what I mean? But once again, I'm happy at where this channel's heading, where this channel has been. And if I have any regrets about this channel being created, I have the regrets for thinking that there were honest people with integrity. I still keep in contact with people who I believe have integrity and who I can trust regarding the YouTube community. And if I don't keep in touch with you, that should tell you something. But I didn't get on here to do all that huffing and puffing bullshit. I got on here to view this video to see if there was actually something that I could see for myself um, that was seen or shown or spoken, to see if I missed it, if I missed something, if there was something that really could have been evidentiary, which I didn't see in my perspective any of that. Hey there, I appreciate that. So I'm gonna get on with my real life. Thank you so much if you watch this on replay. If you think I've talked about you in any way, you're really mistaken. I would have named you by name. I don't hide behind any windows. I just roll one deep most of the time, and that's good enough for me. Tune in for another type of investigative podcast. We're shifting gears. We had to come back to this gear to see exactly what, if anything, I missed, and I didn't miss anything. It was just a waste of time. Thank you so much, and I hope that y'all like, sub, and subscribe. Once again, my name is 12 Gauge, and this is 12 Gauge Investigative Podcast. Y'all have a wonderful night. Have a wonderful week ahead. And always watch your six. Maestro, cue that music.